Okay. Today we're going to start on Vav. Vav is page 6. Start from V'hecha Shaminan Rabbi Akiva. It's 6 lines down from the top. 6a. Does that make sense? Okay. I think Hashem we're able to learn Torah every day. Right. In this class of our learning, we should have the base of English. Learning this was for Shleima, my father, and also Naftali ben Menucha Bela. Okay. Our discussion before we get into this is about Saras. I don't know why I'm like less comfortable with this topic than the rest of the Gemaras. I think because in Yeshiva, you don't really come across this. There's a few places, but exactly the colors of the Tzaras is either, if you learn Masechtas Nagayim, then you know it. Otherwise, it's like foreign. What we learned before was that there's a machlekes between Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan regarding how to list the colors of the Tzaras. You have 2 fathers, which equal 4, because each father has one offshoot. And the fathers were Baheres, the brightest one, and the Seis, which was the second name. Baheres was Aza Kasheleg, was Snow White, and the Seis was Ketzemer Lavan, like white wool. Now, the Baheres has an offshoot, which is Sid, like plaster or lime, and the Seis, which was snow, which was wool light, wool has an offshoot, the egg, the membrane of the egg. Now, in shade of whiteness, egg would be on the bottom, then goes plaster, then goes the wool, then goes the snow. So that would be son, like offshoot, father. That's what it would go. Rabbi Akiva lists it like that, and Rabbi Akiva lists it like that. According to Rabbi Akiva, each one should only be matching with the one that's right above it. According to the Rabbanan, it's not how it works. According to the Rabbanan, the father matches with the offshoot, and the father matches with the offshoot. So there's really 2 lists. That's the way the Rabbanan would have it. We just concluded here that even though it's supposed to be each one only matches with the one that's above it, matches, I mean, that if you have half a size, half a measurement of this and half a measurement of that, then you would, that would be considered a complete size. In other words, it's mitzaref. It could combine to create a complete size. But we just learned that even though Rabbi Akiva says one combines with the next, and only one you can't skip, it's not exactly true, because we learned that there's a pasuk that says, sapachas se'esil, sapachas, that the egg can combine to the seis, to the egg, and the plaster. Both of them can combine to the wool. So there is one that could skip, the egg. The egg can skip and combine with the wool. Why? Because the pasuk tells that to me. Otherwise, they have to only combine with. Because that's one exception, where the wool has 2 offshoots that can. Doesn't have 2 offshoots. It's able to combine with the one extra thing. Okay. Anyway, the Gemara says, that's where we're holding. Where do we have? What's our source that Rabbi Akiva holds? As we took it for granted that he holds this, and we're creating theories about it. But what's the source that Rabbi Akiva really says this? That zu l'mayla mizu, that each shade can combine to a full measurement only with one step up, only with going to the type of tzaras, the whiteness that's one above it. they have these scales of, they have like of gems, a hardness scale of how. So anyway, this is a whiteness scale. It's a Ras scale.
Interestingly, the whole Creole look thing, they started off with like very few colors. Now it's like hundreds.
Do they have names for each color? Yeah. Phil was telling me about the Crayola crayon that they have. Now they have hundreds of different colors.
Maybe it represents the degree of impurity.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't. The Torah doesn't tell me a difference that if they had this color or that color, if they're more impure or less impure. It doesn't say that. It says impure is impure. Whether it's you have this color or that color, but there are different shades. We'll see in a minute like why that's necessary.
My dermatologist said that psoriasis actually could be related to saras.
Oh, interesting. The word saying the etymology.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I told you what happened. I had a guest over that knew language very well, and I said, "Oh, there's a Rashi that's Yan Hayalehem Lazara." It was for them for swords. I think by the complainers, by the Slav. I forget what it was. It says it was for them for swords. Rashi quotes from Moshe Adash, and it says in a foreign language, Zara means a sword. Anyway, so it was like I was learning this, and Google Translate I just got Google Translate on my phone. So I said, "Oh, a foreign language. Let me look." So finally, I looked in Swahili, like, well, how do you say what's sword? And I'm looking at, I'm looking like all the foreign language. Let me try English. Anyway, it says sword. Zara was like sword. Like, oh, it gives me like I looked up like etymology, like what was it originally? They say I found it for Moshe Dash in English is the foreign language. So anyway, I told this to this guy. Zara is Zor. Anyway, he said I should stick to my day job. Things about sounds with that are supposed to match that we would think it matches, and they would the linguists say no, doesn't match like that. All right. So where did we find this? That Rabbi Akiva holds that you move up one level, each one to make this combination to get a full shear, to get a full measurement of a gris, of a gris. Yeah. The size of a stain for a nida is also a gris. The size of a gris, I think they say today, is the size of a dime. A dime, an American dime. That size. That's the size of what the tzaras that we're talking about. Like the size of a dime. So, if it's from the following Bryce, Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yossi is a student of Rabbi Akiva. His full name is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Yeah, he's one of the five students. Shal Yeshua ben Shal Rabbi Akiva. Yeshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva, he asked the following question: May Rabbi Akiva from his father, Rabbi Akiva. Comes along Rashi over here and tells me it's interesting. Who Yeshua ben Karcha, Rabbi Akiva Kireya Chaya Kedamin beBechiras Chutz Min Kireya Chazeh. Rashi quotes the Gemara Bechiras that Penazai said that all the sages are comparable to me like a peel of a garlic. In other words, they're all insignificant, except for this bald one, referring to Rabbi Akiva. Says he was a great person and he was like significant. Yeah. So based on that, Rashi says over here that when we know that there's one sage, Yeshua ben Karcha, and Karcha could be translated as bald. So it says over here, Yeshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva, this must be Yeshua ben Karcha. And when we learn Yeshua ben Karcha, we said, oh, it's Rabbi Akiva's son. That's following Rashi's view. And here in Bechiras, the Tosfos in Bechiras rejects Rashi, and he says that it can't be that if Ben Azai said Chutz Min HaKirech Hazeh, which is sort of like a derogatory term, it can't be that we gave the name to Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, we gave him this derogatory term about his father, called him Chutz Min HaKirech Hazeh, we call him Karcha. We said Yeshua ben Rabbi Akiva. wouldn't have called him the nickname. So it can't be. It says so. Tosfos says actually. Tosfos says that it's Yeshua is actually the son of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Tosfos and Bechiros. Do they quote anything in the high school? Or he says also that, or maybe there was someone's name. Karcha. And Karcha. But they don't quote Tosfos. That's what Rashi says. They quote Tosfos that argues on it. See Tosfos, okay. Okay, so they let you know that there's another opinion. Baruch Atah.
Yeah.
He asked them like this: Pneima Amru, why did the sages say Maris Nagayim Shnaim Shein Arba? That the spots of Nagayim are 2 that are 4. Amrulai. So Rabbi Kiva responds to his son, V'im lav ma yomru. What would you like it to say? So Rabbi Shua responds, Ayomru Mikrum Be'elamayla Tami. He has a great question. He says, if there's 4 levels of Tumah, right? And it goes from the brightest down stages, all the brightest until the membrane of an egg. Okay. So why don't you just say from the membrane of an egg and upwards and brighter is Tumah? Why do we need to have to list 4 stages if anything above the membrane of the egg is Tumah? And his explanation for this question, Rashi quotes the Gemara Psachim that says, "You should try to keep your lesson short." People had to memorize. You don't elaborate. I saw the Meiri's Pshat in the first Mishnah in Masechta Avos. Is they said 3 things, right? Anshek Masechta. What's the 3 things? Yeah, be patient in judgment. Have a lot of students. He is usually and put a fence around the Torah. He learns it means to keep your lessons short. This fence means to keep your speeches short. Don't drain the students with long speeches. Yeah, Rabbi Marlowe would appreciate that shot. The Marlows are known for short speeches. Remember Rabbi Marlowe's father getting up? They called him up to speak. For Adam Lav Malka, he gets up and says, "Agute vach." It's like that. Okay. So Amar Loi, so he responds, this is a good question. He says, why don't we just say from the egg and above? Amar Loi, so Rabbi Kiva says back to him, Leimar Shemistar from Zemzeh. It's coming to tell me that this one, it has to tell me 4 names, because it's telling me this one combines with this one combines, that they're linked one to another that regarding combination. So it's very important. Amar Loi, V'yemru kum be'el amayla, tell me Mistar from Zemzeh. Why don't you just say from a krumbeya and upwards, each level is mitzdarf one with the other. Why do we need to know the 4 types? Just each one would be mitzdarf. I mean, I'm not sure how you would know if you don't have it defined like that. But Amrulai, Rabbi Kiva responds to Son. He says, Laimalach is coming to tell us why is it have the names significant. Kol kain shein abakibem shemisei mein arayas in the gayim. The kayin has to know. He has to pass the Saras, the Saras bar to get to do the test to be able to see Saras. So he has to know the 4 different types. They show him like what's this? He has to know. Okay. Now, so far, it doesn't prove to me that he says only Zelamaylam Mizeh. It's coming to tell me that they combine one with another, but I don't know how they combine with another. You see, if it would be the Rabbanan view is that you have 2 sets of shades of Taras. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But 1 combines with 3 and 2 combines with 4. That's talking about the snow combines with the plaster and the wool combines with the egg, right? With the membrane. So you should have said that that the membrane combines and also the plastic combines. You should have given me two lists because it goes in two lists. According to Rabbi Akiva, it goes in one. It's that your chart is only one line, but according to the Rabbanan, I have two charts here. The krum, the membrane combines with this, and the plastic combines with that. Should have said, why doesn't it say the membrane combines up and also the plastic combines up? He left it out.
Because like that, wouldn't we think that the egg combines with the snow?
I think the egg combines with the snow, but no, I think the egg would combine with its and
But it doesn't combine with the snow.
no. So
The wheel?
uh-huh.
But
You know what the color wheel is?
But then I would know automatically that I would know. You see, Rashi adds in the next thing over here.
You combine these colors would be doing the same thing. Color wheel using the coding and stuff.
I think the answer is that I would know that the higher one would combine with the higher one and the lower one combine.
Then we would be missing when the egg mixes with wool, because then we have the other one in between.
Yeah, but if I had two lists, then that would explain that. So why doesn't it say two lists? Because he doesn't hold of two lists. He holds that it all combines one after another. It's Rabbi Akiva. We're looking for where does Rabbi Akiva say that each one combines up in like,
In textiles,
yeah,
there's something called a color wheel.
color wheel.
It sounds like the color wheel because you combine
Yeah.
all the colors across, and then eventually you get black and white.
Interesting.
I understand.
I'm
Couldn't
sorry.
you have a white color that's brighter than the egg, but it's not in the same category of these four?
White,
Like, that makes,
brighter,
because you
brighter
have,
white or brighter shade. But when you say brighter, that means the shade is whiter.
yeah, it's like whiter, but it's like a bluish white, but it's pretty white. It's just, but it doesn't fit into any of these four kinds of white.
I'm not sure. The Gemara is going to mention the redness coming into it in a moment. Maybe that will help us clarify. One point I want to point out that we said kol kayan she'nabaki b'shem mesayim, that the kayan needs to be an expert. Taisvis points out that it's not actually accurate because the kayan doesn't have to know. The Taisvis says even a kayan shaita. I don't know if he means shaita as in like unlearned, or shaita means literally someone that would go under the category of an incompetent person. I don't know what he means. But anyway, he says even a Kohen Shaita could say that someone is a Tameh, as long as the Yisrael Baki, Baki is an expert. The Yisrael Baki is standing next to him, telling him, this is Tameh, this is Tameh, this is Tameh. We mentioned that the Kohen needs, so it doesn't really mean the Kohen needs. It means someone needs to be there. The color wheel, yeah, very good. Okay, so the fact that he didn't say it like that, that tells me that all of them combine to the seis. Seis is the second one. Why does he say the second one? I guess he means that like we learned before, that the krum, the membrane, and the sid and the plaster, both of them can combine to the wool. Yeah. Yeah. But he's saying that they combine. You're asking, Hillel is asking if, according to the Rabbanan, if the krum can combine to the wool. No, the Rabbanan learn it differently. Rabbanan say the krum combines to the wool, the membrane combines to the wool, but the plastic combines to the beher, so it doesn't combine to the wool. Plaster, yeah, the lime. Yeah, they learn it different. They learn the pasuk different. You'll see soon. The Gemara says, "V'dilma, how do you know that that's so?" Dilma, when it said it, it wasn't so detailed. Maybe that's what it meant. It says that they combine one with another. It didn't have to itemize it. It was telling you the general concept that they combine. Get into those details, and that will be tomorrow's share. But Okay, Ela Mid Rabbi Chanina. Rather, we're going to look for another source to get what's the source that Rabbi Kiva holds like this. Dam Rabbi Chanina says, Mashal Rabbi Kiva l'mad davar daima. An example of Rabbi Kiva. What is it similar to? Laba kaiser shel chalav, 4 cups of milk. Echad, one of them naflo secher shtei tipin shel dam. One of them has 2 drops of blood. You know, like an eyedropper. You're dropping blood into the milk. One of them you dropped into it 4 drops of milk. The 3rd cup. You dropped 8 drops of milk. And one of them you dropped 12 drops of blood. 12 drops. So it's 2, 4, 8. It's supposed to go 16, right? 2, 4, 8, 16. It says, so this is interesting because it's not really matching. We went to 2, 4, 12. 2, 4, 12. Amrila, and some say Shesha Svetipin, some say 16. I guess there's different ways of doing this combination. All of them are shades of white. But this one is above this and this is above this one. It looks like the way he's saying it is that they're going in levels of one above the other, which means that he wants them to be able to combine the least white with the next white with the next white. The way he's listing them is that they would combine one with another. Not that there's 2 different categories and 2 rows, because that I don't see anything from the way he's listing them.
So us, it would look like shades of pink.
Yeah, they look like pink. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You would have to see the commentaries if they mean that it's swirled around, or if the white is not as bright, or if it's still white but there's red. And I'm not, I would have to see the commentaries. I don't have the notes.
A coin used to be able to see that. One of the coins will be an expert.
So the Gemara. So this could be our source. Gemara says, you see, in the Torah, it's when it's listing out the different types of Torahs, one of them is called Pasuch. Pasuch. Pasuch is when it's, I don't know if that's a Torah word, if that's a Mishnah word. The Torah calls it Adamdam. Adamdam, which means reddish. Maybe that's talking about the type of Torahs, which is reddish.
Blood.
Yeah, because it has that reddish hue. Right? Maybe that's what it's talking about. However, becholok mishamatli, there's another type of tzaras where it's just white, straight white, and in those different shades of white. So those different shades of white, maybe there's maybe it doesn't combine like that. Maybe in the white it combines in 2 different patterns, right?
Yeah,
like the Rabbanan said,
white to red is pink, like that. The
Yeah.
combination.
Maybe it would only be by the pink that you say it goes by those levels.
Well,
Jewish
dermatologists now that will look at.
Tzaras, no.
I have a million moles on my back.
No, but they could look at the dermatologist could look at that, but it has nothing to do with tzaras. If they start mixing in tzaras, get a different doctor. And if you say the same way that we'll compare this. The same way it will be a precedent. The same way that he says that the way it matches up, the way it combines by the pasuk. Pasuk is by the reddish one. That's the same thing by the white. But the pasuk does he actually say this by the red one? Now we're challenging even what we just already know about Tanya. The Bach over here says V'hatanan, says in the Mishnah. Tanya would mean it says in a brisa. And the case that we had before, which was Rabbi Yossi explaining that Rabbi Akiva's son was asking him a question, that was actually a brisa. That was a Tosefta in Megarim. Now it's saying that we have a Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva says Adamdam, that was the Torah source for the word red, for the reddish spot. The reddish spot, whether Shebezeh means whether it's the snow, the reddish snow, or the reddish wool. Kiyayin amazig b'mayim. It's similar to wine that's mixed with water instead of blood with milk. Talking about wine that's mixed with water. Shel Beheres Azaka Shel. The only thing is, by the Beheres, it's bright like snow. Shall sit Deyamimena. And the plaster one is going to be lighter than that.
Purplish.
Right.
If they do this with two lids, isn't it like harder?
You mean harder?
If you have like
Combine
two
them.
sets of white, and it's time to match. Yeah,
Maybe harder.
you have like one list, how it's explaining with the
Right.
drops. Like it's like one flows into the next. I think that was one of the reasons why they needed to.
Right. Maybe harder according to the Rabbanan. It's not saying if it's harder or easier, but there's brightness and then there's shade. So then there's like the hue of the type of white. This has it goes in a different column of the type of white. And then there's the brighter one and then the less bright. And then there's this type of white and then there's the brighter one and the less bright. And so I guess. But now let me just see what is the Gemara saying. Shall Beheres has shall sit there mimena. So shall sid is less than what's the himena? Less than what? Shabazev we said was the Beheres and the sid. That's what we're coming. I thought originally when I read this, I thought Shabazev meant
Like this and like this.
the two fathers, the snow, like snow and like wool. But then when the Mishnah actually elaborates, and it says the only difference between them is that both of them are mixed with water mixed with wine. But the difference between them is that the Beheres is this, and the Sid is that. 1 second. Why is he saying Beheres and Sid? If this is Rabbi Akiva talking, he should say Beheres, Se'es, Sid, Krum. He doesn't have that jumping of father and offshoot. Why is he going from Beheres to Sid? Why is he going from snow to plaster? That's the Rabbanan. That's what the Rabbanan did.
From where to plaster? From where?
From snow to plaster. This is Rabbi Akiva talking, and he doesn't do it like that.
We had a third. I thought it was.
Yeah, that's the question. Now we're challenging that opinion.
Snow is whiter than plaster, right?
The snow is whiter than plaster. Yeah, the snow is the father and the plaster. Vim Isa, and if you want to tell me that Rabbi Akiva holds that it goes in that order, right? That it goes from snow to wool, from wool to plaster, from plaster. So it should have said shel tzemer deyamen. It should have said snow to wool. Wool is lighter, not plaster is lighter than the snow.
Well, I tried to break it down.
Dimmer than it. Ibayla should have said. Amri the Gemara says Enachanami. You're right. Well, Tanya, it was actually taught in a brisa. Rav Nasan Omer, Lo Yisha Amar Rabbi Akiva shel sid deyamena, el shel tzemer deyamena. You have to adjust that Mishnah. That Mishnah was not. Rabbi Akiva didn't say that the plaster is lighter than it. He said the wool is lighter than it. For some reason we threw in plaster, but that's not what the original was. Okay, so we corrected. Now the Gemara asked the Beheres Azahi. How do you know that Beheres is the brightest? Amar Abai, Amar Krav, in Beheres Levana. It says if the Beheres is white, Beheres Levana, he Levana vein Acheres Levana. It's the most white, and there's nothing whiter than it. That's the Beheres. We've been discussing the terms in the Torah. Beheres is one of the spots of Tzuras, discussing the shades of whiteness that they have. Tanurabanan was taught in a brisa.
When the season started.
Exactly. Beheres Amuka says the white is deep. And it also says in the pasuk Mara Amak Mina'ar.
Deep into the skin.
that it says that its appearance is deeper than the skin. It's like when you look at the sun versus the shade, the sun looks like it's deeper down than the shade. And you'd have to talk to those guys in the Renaissance that they were making these perspective, like what's deeper, what's further away. Apparently, the sun looks further away than the shade. So they were saying if it's brighter, that means it looks deeper than the shade.
They associate that to the skin.
Right. That
means it takes up a layer of your skin, deeper.
It's just a discoloration. It's just a discoloration. But the discoloration makes it look that it's seis. What is a seis? Ain't seis ela gavaya. Seis means that it's raised. But it's a spot. So it means it's raised above the beheres. The beheres was deeper, seis is raised. Seis means stop. It also says Al Kala Harim Aramim and all the high mountains, Al Kala Gvais and Sais and all on the raised hills. Okay. Sapachas, what is Sapachas? We're going through the pasuk in the Torah that says Beheres, Seis, and Sapachas. Sapachas ain't Sapachas el Tvela. Sapachas means secondary. It's not actually a shade, a color. It just means secondary. Also says Safchenina. Safchenina I think means let me attach myself. Spain. How do they translate stuff? Annex. And what is it? What is the context there when it's said? This is Eli, the Kohen Gadol, is being informed by the prophet that the high priesthood will depart from his family and will pass this on from another line of Kohanim. Eli's progeny will be forced to come before the new Kohen Gadol and plead, annex me, please, to one of the Kohanim shifts. Allow me to be subsidiary to them. And so tzavak means subsidiary. Yeah. This was the prophet. This was maybe what Shmuel told him, right? That's and I guess that's what it means. This was Shmuel's prophecy. Is that Shmuel's prophecy, Daniel, or was that someone else, a different prophet? Remember when Shmuel gets called and he runs to Eli? Was that in that speech? I don't know. Okay. Ashkechan Tefillah Seis. It says Seis Philisapachas Philibaheres. Seis, which is the wool, it's like wool, and the sapachas, which means secondary, subsidiary, and to the beheres. So we only have a secondary to the seis. Tefillah beheres minalan. How do you know that there's a secondary? How do you know there's 4 shades secondary to the beheres? Maybe there's not. Maybe there's only 3. It says white by the seis. It says the word white by the beheres. Ma lavana amar b'seis. Just like the lavana which is said by the seis. Yesh l'tfeila. It has a secondary. Af lavana amar beheres. Yesh l'tfeila. Also, when it uses, this is a zera shava. When it uses the word, you're on a different. You know how that works. There's if you look at the Hebrew. Look at the Hebrew column. You see this in the margin. You see there's like a gray line. That gray line takes you to the English. That's the English is only translating what they have on that line. Turn the page again. You turn the page again. Now you see the gray line. Now that's the part that's getting translated now on the new page because the English takes up more pages than the Hebrew. So you're turning several pages just to while we get down. Okay. So also the verbal analogy here, the lavana, it says by the beheres, also means that it has a secondary. But masnisatana, we have another source in a brisa. That's interesting. This is where when you're missing a comma and you could read it two ways. So it says, the pasuk says, l'seis, l'sapachas, l'beheres. So if you do seis l'sapachas, so then I have seis and it's secondary. Sapachas l'beheres means secondary and the beheres. Then I would have a secondary to the beheres. So it says that it put it between them to tell me that sapachas goes before and it also goes after. Interesting. Okay. We're up to the new piece, Seis Ketzemer Lavan. The second type of teras. Second type of teras is like wool, white wool. Mitzvah Lavan. What is white wool?
The color, right?
Yeah, the color. Amar Rav Bibi, Amar Ravasi. Rav Bibi says the name of Ravasi.
A little darker.
Tzemer Naki Ben Yoimai Shemachavnim Bay Lemelas.
Yeah, a little bit darker white.
It says it's the white wool of a day-old sheep, which is mechavnan means covered. The Rashi uses the word mechavnan when they were tied up, when the sheep were
confined.
They would tie them so they didn't mate with them, or maybe they tied them so they would mate. It's tied up for the wool.
Maybe from there.
Oh, that's what
They add for dirt for future use.
Yeah, this was protecting it from dirt. Rashi quotes from a Gemara Shabbos where they would cover it over, I think, for other reasons. But he's just translating the word kavoines, mechavnen. So mechavnen means like a something that holds it covered. Amar Rab Chanina says, Mashal derabanan l'ma davar daima. A parable for what the sages say. What is it comparable to? Now, what do the sages say? The sages said two which are four. L'trei malchei, l'trei ifrachei. Two kings and two governors. Okay? Two kings and two governors. That's it. You have officers there?
No, I'm just
Governors.
relating to what I learned.
The governors will be subsequent to the
Exactly. The governors would be secondary. So I have two kings and two governors. Malchei shel zeh l'mayla malchei shel zeh. This king is higher than this king. Ifrachei shel zeh. This governor is higher than this. But basically, what he just said was that it would go in a list. I would have the snow. I would have the wool. Those would be the two kings, and each one is higher than the other. Then I would have the governors, which is the plaster, and then the membrane of the egg. The Gemara says, "Hi zelamaylam mizehu." 1 second, you took me back to Rabbi Akiva's opinion. I asked you what the Rabbanan's opinion. Rabbi Akiva had 1, 2, 3, 4. The Rabbanan had 1, 3, 2, 4. Ella malki shel zelamaylam ifrei denafshei. Rather, we have to say it a little different. Say this king is higher than this governor. Malki shel zeh, and this king lamaylam ifrei denafshei is higher than its own governor.
King is more pure than a governor.
So yeah, well, not more, but here they're saying more bright, more bright in the color. So we're discussing the colors of. Well, Rav Ada bar Abba Amar, Rav Ada bar Abba says, Ada bar Abba. Sometimes it's Rav Ada bar Ava. It's missing a hey if it would be. Maybe it's a different stage. Going Malka the Al Kapta.
Which word is missing?
I just possibly a letter. It's like a king, and it's what did you say? Al Kapta, a dignitary of some sort. Oh, article just says Al Kapta. Okay, I know they did that. Rufila Breish Galusa. So.
With the final none?
No.
3 letters?
King and its dignitary, which means we're listing the two fathers first. Rufila and Reish Galusa. I don't know what Rufila is, like it's another governor.
Yeah.
A governor and the Reish Galusa. I'll read it through. Hi, Zelamayla Mizehu, 1 second. But now you just listed 1, 2, 3, 4. Ella Kagain Malka Rufila. Rather, it's supposed to be king and the governor. And Al Kapta, Reish Galusa, and then the dignitary and the Reish Galusa. The Reish Galusa is the exilar. But basically, what we did was we made two categories. We started off saying that it's going from highest, working its way down, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we said no, 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. That's Rava says going Shvar Malka B'Keser. Rava says that it's like the King Shvar, which was like the Persian king, and the Caesar, which was the Roman king. And each one has its offshoots. So we took different countries, and then in those countries we have the king, and each one has its secondary, subsidiary. Amalei Rav Papa Rava. Papa says to Rava, "Hi mina yoadif." It sounds like a distraction. Because which one is what my students would do to me if I mentioned something about Rome? They would say like, "Oh, can we watch a video about Rome?" So which one is greater, Rome or Persia? Amalei, the Churshika Achal Lei. Are you eating in the forest? Like this, it sounds like you don't read the newspaper. Yeah, I under a rock. Papa was asking, Rashi says, because Rava mentioned Shvar Malka before the Caesar. The reason why Rava did it was because he was in that country. So he had to list them first, even though that wasn't necessarily the real order. Well, Maluku's currency is more frequent, it's more
money, right?
more accepted. On Sagi, it means it's more passed around. What's it called? Circulating. Which currency circulates? The Ksiv, Bateichol Kalara. Oh, this is in the dream. With that statue, I think it says that the last one is going to eat consume the entire land with Tidushna. It's going to trample it. The Dakna, it's going to break it apart. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, this is Rome. Raimi Chayavis, the guilty Rome. That its currency circulates in the whole world. Ravina Amar Kagan Glima da Amar, Beshachke, Sedina, the Kisna Beshachke. Ravina says that if you want to describe these different colors, he says that I have a garment of wool and a worn out garment, a new one and an old one, and then I have a linen one and an old one, a worn out one. And one is going to be more, the new one, I guess, is going to be brighter than the worn out one.
It was seen earlier about the lamb that when it's first born, like the mother like cleans it, and that's like clean. So
Oh, really? Is that saying there that the mother cleans it and that's the clean Sylvie? Is that how it?
no, it's earlier about the lamb.
Oh, okay. Let's leave it over here. And should we learn this evening in the Kaila? Would you like to learn this evening? Let's try to learn this evening. We'll send out a message later if we're able to. Won't be 8:30. We're starting a little late. It'll be like about 8:40, 8:45. We'll learn for about 45 minutes or something like that. All right. Okay. We'll see if we're able to.
Thank you.
We're good.